Yo, what's good, Chiefs Kingdom? It's your guys, Scott, Nick, Bo.
What's up, fellas?
Back with another off-season edition of Chiefs Kingdom Live. I normally say click the like and subscribe, but you know to do that already. We're going to get into the show here because we had some spirited debate going before in the lobby here before we went live. Chiefs have made some big moves, some interesting moves, some questionable moves here the last week or so. Really be interested to know what everybody thinks. So if you tune in and you get a chance to comment, we'd really like to know what you think. It makes the show a lot more fun when we have people joining in. So don't be shy. Get in there. Tell us what you think. We'd really like to have you be part of the show. Fellas, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Until I check football news and I see all the moves being made, then it's just like, God dang it, what's going on here? But other than that, I can't complain. Having a great time enjoying these sunny days up here in Washington. So no complaints really up here. How about you, Nick?
I'm doing good now that I finally got back home. I was delayed coming home on the East Coast for a work deal. And yeah, evidently, they have this flight from Philly to Newark that, always gets delayed because of weather anytime it rains. And that like screws up everybody's deal. So and then they're just like, well, you're just fucked, That's I don't know. But it's like, you guys give me a hotel or something? They're like, no, we don't do that. Nope. You just go sleep on the chair over there for 12 hours until the next flight.
That sucks.
So I had a buddy come. Actually, he was about an hour away. So he came and picked me up and let me stay at his place and got me back at the at the airport like 4:30 a.m. the next day. So shout out to Jamie for helping me out there. But I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. I was over there and I was in all day meetings and my phone was exploding with people talking about the Tyreek Hill trade. We put Scott on watch there. We had people doing wellness checks on him, every couple hours. But otherwise, I'm good, man.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks here since we had a show. Obviously, the big development, Chiefs apocalypse, Chiefs Mageddon. I don't know what you want to call it. Chiefs trade
Something
away.
happened with Patrick Mahomes?
No, Chiefs trade away Tyreek Hill. Man, it was unforeseen. It was pretty shocking. It came out of nowhere that, hey, this could possibly happen, and it looks like it's going to happen, and it happened all in about, 90 minutes?
Yeah, so
or
quick.
less, yeah.
Or less. Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, obviously we weren't expecting it to happen.
Right.
Yeah. So Tyreek Hill traded to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks, one of which is a first-round pick at the end of the first round. We'll get to my thoughts here in a minute. Let's go with you first. Bo, what were you thinking? What was going through your mind when you saw
honestly,
come through?
This trade went through it was not even in my mind whatsoever until Devontae Adams got traded to the Raiders. And then I immediately thought, shit, he just drove up the market price for wide receivers by so much. And I kind of I didn't think it would happen, but I was just like, I really hope that our guys don't get too greedy here. And I call it what it is. I think it was a little greed. 85 cents on the Chiefs dollar or on the Dolphins dollar to stay with the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes, I think, was a decent offer. But He is the number one wide receiver in football. Guy should get paid like so. So I understand the decision. I'm gutted by it, but good for him. I don't think it's a win-win for anybody. I think it's actually a lose-lose. I think the Chiefs are obviously losing out on their star player, and I think Tyreek Hill's going to lose down in Miami. I don't think he's going to be nearly as effective for the Dolphins. He's still going to be just as fast, but I mean, he's not going to have the same quarterback throwing to him, and that says a lot. So, I mean, other than that, I got the typical. I'm not as doom and gloom as Scott will show you he is, but still gutted, man. I can't believe it. It sucks that it is what it is, but he just got a little too expensive for us, I think. How about you, Nick? How'd you feel about it?
I think gutted's a good word. Just it was like the big three, right? Big three: Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill. Those were the guys. That was what everybody talked about when they talked about the Chiefs. I mean, had a down year last year, right? I think that some plays in the playoffs maybe made us think a little differently about how that season was for Tyreek Hill. But the most electrifying player in the NFL, the most deep, touchdown, long touchdown plays in the NFL over the last 5 seasons. We've watched him develop from a really good return dude into a legit wide receiver one, and they call him like one of one, right? He's one of one because of his talents, his in-game speed, his acceleration is just unparalleled. I mean, and you can talk about other guys that are fast, right? There's lots of guys that are really fast in the NFL, and they get a little bit faster on like on a run play when they break away. But I mean, that touchdown that he scored in the Bills playoff game, there's nobody else in the NFL that's making that touchdown on that play, right? So, I mean, Cheetah, we're going to miss you, man. We are going to miss you. Good luck to you. Not too much luck because you're in the AFC still, right? But I think you're right. I think it's just, we weren't in a position where we could pay wide receiver quarterback money over the next 4 years. I mean, we've got left tackles we got to sign, right? We got some defensive contracts we're trying to work out. And I mean, basically maybe some bad contracts and some dead cap money. And I mean, you saw it, the Chiefs just didn't have any room, right? And, they offered Tyreek what I'll call a competitive offer. Obviously not the best offer. They did get a good haul of draft picks, right? I mean, 5 draft picks, for one dude. Is a lot of picks. Scott's right that first round is it's towards the end of the first round. But I mean that's just I don't know, man. It's just the reality of having a big quarterback contract that starts to hit, and it's they did their best to structure it so it doesn't destroy the team. But I mean we were fooling ourselves if we thought it wasn't going to alter the team. So Scotty.
I was stunned because first of all, they didn't even have to trade him. He's still under contract for next year.
For another year.
And then you have the franchise tag for 2 years after that. The cap goes up next year. The Chiefs had to have, built up some goodwill with Tyreek and his agent, sticking with drafting him despite the stuff that happened to him when he was in college, which basically sent him from Oklahoma State to Western Alabama. And then the hit piece, or I don't know what you want to call it, about his situation with his son being injured. They stuck with him through that. I just don't see how, at the very least, you don't say, hey, look, you're under contract for next year. Here's what we're willing to offer you now. If you think you're worth more than that, the cap goes up next year. Maybe we can restructure some more guys. Let's see. Well, we'll just revisit this next year. Kick the can down the road for another year. They said that maybe they didn't want to be a distraction, but I don't know that. I don't think I've ever seen a guy be a distraction in his last year under contract. We've seen Le'Veon Bell and some other guys really throw a fit about being used with the franchise tag. So there was that option if he wanted to play hardball. But to me, it's not that you're just getting rid of your wide receiver one or a wide receiver one. You're talking about one of the most dynamic playmakers the game has ever seen.
Yeah.
And I'm
Not
sorry,
just
I
in the
know
wide
Davante
receiver
Adams might.
position.
Yeah, I mean Davante Adams might have a few more yards or a couple hundred more yards and some more receiving touchdowns some years than Tyreek. But he can't play running back the way Tyreek does and break big plays. He can't punt return. He can't kick return. I mean, Nick, you said he had a down year last year. The dude had 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns when defenses were set up exclusively to keep him from getting big plays. To me, that's not a bad year. That's an unbelievable year.
Yeah, I'm
To me,
talking more from like the big explosive plays, right? I mean,
right, and he's still 1,309. Whoever we draft, even if we trade up, that was the other thing too. The draft picks we got weren't that good. The first one was one pick ahead of where we're picking already this year. Whoop-de-doo. And the other ones are seconds and third day picks, fourth and fifth rounders. Those are nothing.
Right.
If you hit on one out of every 8 fourth, fifth round draft picks, especially fifth, you're doing good. So to me, what they got, they didn't need to do it, and what they got for him was not enough. Hell, the Jets, I saw they offered, I think it was only 3 picks instead of 2, but maybe one of their picks was higher in the first round. I would almost rather have a top 10 or 15 pick instead of a couple of those fourth and fifth round picks, honestly.
Real quick, Scott, what do you think about the notion of the Chiefs like combining picks and trading up for a better pick? Or combining their first rounds for and trading?
Yeah, I mean, now you're picking once in the first round again instead of twice.
But you get that top 10, you know.
When and the other thing, it seemed like they rushed the deal. Maybe he wanted to go to Miami, and that if he's really playing hardball though with you and being greedy, if that's your view of the offer, to me, I don't think he's being greedy. The reports out there that we saw where the Chiefs offered him $22 million a year and the Dolphins gave him 30 over 4 years. That's $32 million, man. That's not like a couple $1 million amongst friends. You know, what's a few $1 million between friends? That's $32 million.
And I think that what I saw is the Dolphins contract essentially guarantees after year 2.
And a lot of it is guaranteed. So I don't know that you can sit here and say he's greedy, but until any one of us or anybody watching is in that position to turn down $32 million, that's
Scott, when I'm making $22 million a year, I will show you every $30 million contract I'll turn down to stay with the best, whatever it is.
That's easy. That's easy to say now when you're not looking. $32 million that's a lot of money to turn down. So I just, again, I didn't think it needed to happen. I didn't think that they got a very good haul for it, and it seemed like they kind of rushed it.
It did seem super rushed. I agree with you. I don't think it was a fair trade by any means, dude. Just draft picks. I mean, if you look at the Seattle-Denver trade, I mean, they traded players at least and draft picks. Like, I just don't think it was like I said, a win-win for the Chiefs at all. Like, I feel like you said, they rushed it. We didn't get what he was worth. I mean, other than that, they're going to just, pay his contract. But, like, I don't think cap space and draft picks are comparable to a Tyreek Hill. That's for sure.
And even if you would have got a top 10 pick, you're not getting another Tyreek Hill in the draft. I'm sorry. I know people are excited about some of these guys. Jameson Williams, Alabama, Chris Olave, Ohio State. Look, Jerry Jeudy was one of the most can't-miss wide receiver prospects of the last 5, 6, 7 years. There wasn't anybody out there that said that there was any potential that he was going to be anything other than one of the best receivers in the league from years to come. The dude scored 3 touchdowns the last 2 years. Didn't score a single touchdown last year. I know he has some injuries.
Teddy Bridgewater and
Drew
Lock throwing the ball.
But if you're that good, you do better than that. Noah Fant was scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
With Drew Lock throwing the ball to him. So, to me, you took a sure thing and gave it away for less than you should have gotten when you didn't really need to, and you just made it a lot harder. The thing is, I just can't keep getting over to me is I understand people want to bring up all the salary cap. You can't pay someone $30 million. If you weren't overpaying some other people in some other areas, you could have afforded it. And on top of that, the dude is worth it. And to me, Patrick Mahomes, number one. And then you could argue, flip-flop these either way. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, they are what separated the Chiefs from the rest of the AFC. I think that's why the Chiefs were here, and the Bills and the Chargers and some of these other up-and-coming teams, maybe Tennessee. The Bengals beat us twice this year, so I don't know how you could say like that. I don't think anybody thinks the Chiefs are really worse than the Bengals. Those were kind of some strange, fluky, odd games. Our defense capitulated and blew 3 touchdown leads in both those games. Now you're just right back down there in the muck. I mean, they're showing graphics who has the best 1-2 receiving combo in the AFC, and the Chiefs aren't even on the graphic anymore. It's the Raiders with Waller and Devontae Adams, and it's the Chargers with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, and the Chiefs, they're not even anywhere on – they're not even in the same stratosphere now. So
I disagree, my man. Like
it's a
we were
bigger
saying earlier,
hit than I think most people are willing to admit.
It is a big hit. I don't think people are denying that fact, dude. But like when you had Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Alex Smith, they didn't go all the way. They won a playoff game. That was it, dude. I think what separated us in the AFC was Patrick Mahomes, and we still have number 15, and that still is what is going to continue to separate us from the rest of the league. And I know MVS and all these guys aren't Tyreek Hill, man, but like we can't keep all these players forever, and it did get a little too expensive. And call them bad contracts on the other side of the football kind of thing. Like I agree with you. There are some people getting overpaid that like we probably should have gone to them first, but I'm kind of the opinion you can't have the best quarterback, you can't have the best tight end, and you can't have the best wide receiver and afford all three, especially when you had the groundbreaking $500 million contract that we gave Patrick Mahomes and not expect it to come back around several years down the road. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying.
$500 million contract that's over 10 years. It's actually pretty team friendly for the next 2-3 years. I mean, he's only making 30-something million for. I mean, that's less than Aaron Rodgers. That's less than some of these other quarterbacks are making. He's not even the top paid quarterback in the league. The cap is going up again next year. I think you have to find a way to make it work. I just don't see where.
I think that we're just in the point of Patrick Mahomes' career where he's got to start taking these guys that are lesser talents and making them greater talents because he's that good. And
I mean, a good quarterback will take an average guy and make him good. But I don't think there's going to be I don't think you're going to make an average or good receiver a Tyreek Hill. The dude is – you look at some of the numbers and some of the company he's in with the yards and the touchdowns he scored in his first 6 years in the league, and it's like Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and that's about it. Larry Fitzgerald, like some of the best players ever. To me, he's not just a number one. He's one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game.
You know what all those receivers have
in common, in your prime, that's just huge failure.
All those receivers went to another team at a certain point, though, right?
Past their prime.
That's true. But, I mean, it's a new era of teams trading, dude. It's going places, man.
I will say that. But, there's other players on this defense making $25-30 million a year, cap hits last year and this year. They ain't Tyreek Hill. I'd rather Tyreek Hill than those guys.
Yeah, completely. It's one of those things, though. I feel like by design, by the nature of the game, right? Like, especially when you get a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, like you're gonna have to. And I know given Tyreek Hill is amazing. He was a game setter, right? But like we saw this with other great quarterbacks, a la Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. You name your quarterback, where they have to run, a couple legs in their career, like with really good players, with not so good players, and maybe they get good players again. You know what I mean? Like it is kind of by design with the way the cap is, you know what I mean, to like mix it up a little bit. But I mean, it is like I agree with you. It did get much harder, but I don't think the Chiefs are now lined up with the rest of the AFC opponents, man. Like number 15 is so special, dude. He's the game changer. Like, and I know Tyreek Hill can be a game changer too, but like he ain't making any of those catches without number 15 throwing it to him. Half of the big plays over 40, 50 yards, no other quarterbacks extending the play that long and throwing it that far in the same play to get it to Tyreek Hill so we can have all those stats. So I'm a little bit more optimistic in the fact that we still have Patrick Mahomes and actually a hell of a receiving squad. It's not the same, but I feel like it got improved over last year. I'd rather have MVS and these guys over Byron Pringle and D-Rob and everything. So I don't look at them replacing Tyreek Hill. I look at them kind of replacing those guys.
Nick?
Yeah, Scott and I were talking about this while I was waiting in the airport, and I some of the plays that Hill has missed, and I know he's made a lot of plays, right? But some of the plays that he's missed, letting the ball bounce off his face in the end zone in the Super Bowl, not being able to get the best position, letting the ball get poked out of his hands to lose essentially the AFC Championship game this year, and then to come around and demand, the most money at his position ever when they're offering him. I think that the Chiefs may have had some things to say about that. I think it was last year when, they had converted Mahomes's contract to signing bonus, and I think they restructured Kelsey's deal. We may have seen some of this coming because I think they approached Hill about restructuring too, and he was like, no. I just think he was going to squeeze every last dollar out of whatever team was going to, offer it to him. I am intrigued, right, as to why they did it now. Maybe they were like, look, we can either do it now, but we're not going to be able to pay him next year, and then we won't even get the picks for him. Maybe that was a thought. To me, it seems like the team, made a concession for him and said, let's go see what you can get, and then we'll get from that team what we can get. Because the hard truth of it is they could have paid, had him on the team this year, franchise tagged him for the next 2 years. By then, he's at the back end of his prime or out of his prime, and then turn you loose, and now you're going to get significantly less than you would have right now. So it's almost like the team did him a favor, which was a little weird because I don't know if you guys saw the tweet that he put out when they were talking about the Chiefs, took him and did this and that, and then he sent like a asterisk, like a correction, and it said John Dorsey. So I don't know if there's, he just isn't a fan of Brett Veach. Maybe he feels left out because he saw some of these other guys get paid. And then when it came his turn, he didn't get the super huge contract that he had asked for. But it'd be interesting to know like what happened in those talks behind the scenes. But the guy with Patrick Mahomes, that's the weapon, right? Like it's both. It's like Tyreek Hill is super fast, but you're right, Bo. That week 1 play that was that touchdown against the Browns that sealed the game for us essentially. Hill, nobody else is scoring a touchdown on that play and getting open there maybe in that situation. But nobody else other than Patrick Mahomes is getting the ball there in that situation where they're heaving the ball like across their body 40 yards downfield as they're going away. So, I think that probably you're going to see both people perform at maybe a little bit lower clip. But I just think that Patrick Mahomes is good enough that we can still win with, whoever we get, right? We obviously don't have Cheetah anymore, and there's no replacement for Cheetah. But would you rather have one super stellar guy or 3 really good guys? And maybe that's the math the Chiefs were doing on offense because we got stifled with only having 2 real weapons this year. Like we had games where our offense was sputtering. And it's because we had 2 guys, right? We had some other dudes, Pringle and, Williams and stuff that, Williams isn't a receiver, but it kind of seemed like teams were kind of figuring us out maybe. And we just didn't have that talent at those other receiver positions. So hopefully, we got some upgrades there. Nobody's going to confuse that dude from the Packers with the Cheetah, right?
I don't know. Check Twitter.
You can find people saying anything on Twitter. It doesn't mean shit, right? I guess I shouldn't have cut my hair. Like I cut my hair and we trade Cheetah.
Way to go.
I'd rather have 1 stellar player than 3 good or okay players, because now you got 3 positions on the roster to make up the same amount of production. Now you don't get to have depth somewhere else with those two positions that weren't being taken up.
I think it was obvious that teams bracketed coverage to cover for Tyreek Hill, and they
and
like
how
put
much of that
Kelsey,
like
and we
opened
were
up the
stifled,
middle?
man. We were stifled. Nobody else could get open.
That's not
Nobody else
Tyreek
could
Hill's
get open,
fault.
and we didn't have a running back.
That's not because of Tyreek Hill, like you just said. That's because our running game sucked. Our running back is average or below average. How many of these 10, 15-yard catch and runs that Travis Kelce had this year are because they're playing two defenders 30 yards off the line of scrimmage? Not only do you lose Tyreek Hill's production, now it becomes harder for the other guys in the offense. They don't have to
Not if your entire
that.
receiving core is better, though. Right?
To
I
like,
mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's
we don't
hard.
have a better running back suddenly, but if we have like all around a better receiving core,
Well, and if we wouldn't have made the mistake at running back with the first round with CEH, there's another mistake that is hurting. It's fine.
is that a TV or a time machine behind you?
This idea. I mean, I said that was a bad. I was sitting right next to you when they picked him, and I was like, that's a giant mistake. So that's not revisionist history on my part. That's not Captain. What was it on South Park?
Captain Hindsight.
I said that the second that guy was picked that was a bad pick. So anyway, yeah, they just it got a lot harder, and they got their work cut out for them now. And you look at some of these moves in the division, especially, but just around the AFC, teams went out and got better. And I mean, I'm just going to say it right now, the Chiefs gotten worse this last week. They've gotten worse on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, would either of you argue that point?
I will agree with you to a certain extent that they got worse, but they're not. I don't feel like they got as bad as you're making it out to be.
I'm not saying they're like the worst team in the league now, but they don't have that separation. They're not heads above everybody else.
To the point Nick was making, man, last year we only had two options to throw to, dude. Hardman, D-Rob, and Pringle were pretty much worthless. Whether they couldn't catch it or they couldn't even like make turn a catch with the defender 10 yards away. They couldn't even make 3 yards out of it, man. So like they were just absolutely worthless. And to Nick's point, man, like now we do have a solid two more options. And I'm trying to answer Doug's question too here. What do we think of Juju? I think he's insanely better than Josh Gordon. I think anybody to distract on TikTok over Mahomes' brother is great. You know what I mean? that's going to help Patrick Mahomes out in the long run. So, but no, and seriously, I do think like overall our receiving core is better, even though like we did lose that superstar in the sense that like now we have more than just two options for Patrick to throw to.
Yeah, I mean, I think you replaced two guys with two similar guys, and you got rid of a badass. And the Chiefs still get to draft, so the wide receiver room could improve. But right now, I'm sorry, MVS is unless he has some sort of revelation here, he's not good. You look at his numbers; he catches less than half of his targets. He's never had more than 700 yards receiving in a year, and up until last year, he had drop problems catching the ball. He is okay. He's fast. Well, there's a lot of fast guys. McCole Hardman's fast. He wasn't Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs, and if you remember, Hardman was kind of the we might have problems with Tyreek Hill when the story about his son and all that scandal kind of came out that turned out to be nothing, and Tyreek Hill didn't even miss a game for all that. Hardman's no Tyreek Hill. They already whiffed trying to replace him once. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to be as good on offense, really hard. They're going to have to make some really good moves.
I will give MVS.
I say they can do it, and not to say that they won't do it. All I'm saying is they made it a lot harder on themselves, and I don't necessarily think that they had to. But
I'm thinking that the Juju's – I don't think any of these guys are trying to replace Tyreek. I think they're just trying to improve the overall receiving core. Like, obviously, you're not going to replace this guy. Like, that's a given, right? But, like, if you can bring up those other two positions to a better than okay position, you know what I mean? I think the Juju move was what we thought Josh Gordon was going to do for us last year. I think that's what this move was, the Juju move. The MVS, I think we were just looking for somebody fast enough to maybe send a deep threat, right? Like, and he does have that speed, but I'm with you. Like, he has the drops, And I feel like his numbers might be a little muted since he was the number 2 receiver to Davante Adams, arguably the other best receiver in the NFL. So, I mean, like his numbers are, I don't know if I can just base it off of that, but the dude is fast, right? And like that's what you need in this league is that fast, deep threat, and let Patrick sling it 60, 70 yards. If he catches 1 out of every 2, that's fine with me.
What do you guys think about the Chiefs having maybe some long-term thinking here when the trend in the league is like push all your chips into the center of the table and go for broke? I mean, do you think that here in 2 or 3 years when some of these draft pick trades and some of these shit contracts start really hitting these teams, that the Chiefs are going to be like financially and draft pick wise in like a much better spot than these teams? So maybe it's more of like a 5-year plan than like a 1 or 2 year plan.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Patrick Mahomes, I guess you've got like a 10-year plan. But I mean, I never think you should be more worried about 4 or 5 years down the road than you are this year. I don't. I mean, I understand there's a balance there. And going back to Doug's ask about Juju, that took a lot of the shine off the Juju signing to me, because you look at Juju when he was with the Steelers and he was the second guy, and Antonio Brown was drawing a lot of attention. He was terrific. Once he became the guy, he fell off.
That's true.
So to me, that almost made the Juju signing.
Wouldn't that be better for this one then? If he's not going to be the guy, he's going to be intermixed with all these other guys. Wouldn't that be better for him then?
I mean, he's the best receiver on the team right now. He'd be your number 1 going into this year.
Is it weird? I think Kelsey's our number 1 right now.
Defenses. Teams aren't scared of MVS. They're not.
Not yet. Not yet.
Maybe they've seen some things with Mecole Hardman. He had that play that he had. Was it the AFC Championship game? That was a sick throw and catch. So if we could see some more of that, we'd be doing all right. Yeah,
I mean, he's good for one of those couple times a season, it seems like. I mean, he had one against the Raiders a couple years ago. I'm just more down on the move than most people are. I just think it sets us further back on offense than I think most people realize. So
I think when you sit back and look at the fact, though, that Patrick Mahomes is going to be throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, Mecole Hardman, and Travis Kelce, like that, I don't feel too concerned. I mean, I know what you're saying. We don't have Tyreek in there, but dude, that does not sound terrible to me at all.
It doesn't sound terrible. It's not as good. Like they got worse. Like you don't want to be getting worse. You want to be getting better.
So this is a weird analogy. Bear with me. It'll wrap up. But like I play PGA 21 or 2K21 on video games, right? And when you're buying new drivers, there's all these attributes to it, right? And sometimes some driver will have one attribute that just sends it out, but then like that'll be that best in that field, right? But then you go to another driver and it kind of levels it off, and all the other ones are brought up. And I kind of feel like that's what we're doing with the Chiefs. We're just bringing all the other attributes up, even though we don't have like the speed or the wide receiver 1 that's like way out ahead of everybody else. All the other attributes coming up, that one's coming down. I don't think it's as I kind of feel like it's what we've all been saying, but like I don't feel like I still feel like we're above everybody else, dude. I don't feel like the Bills have gotten any better. I don't feel like the Bengals have gotten any better with any of their moves. And I feel like those were our only 2 serious competitors now. I mean, the Broncos, maybe, but I don't think Russell Wilson, I think he's past his prime. He's not going to be throwing to anybody in Denver. So, I like a lot of these moves, I don't think that I still feel like we're leaps and bounds ahead of most AFC teams.
Nick?
Nick, are you there, buddy? You muted?
No, I was muted. I have some background noise going on right now. I mean, I think that what sets us apart, I think you said at the very beginning, and I think it's still true 30 minutes later, is that we have Patrick Mahomes, right?
That's what doesn't make me totally sick.
Even if we're still ahead of the pack, we're not as far ahead as we were.
Sure, and I kind of feel like that was inevitable, man. Like I've seen the AFC West doing everything they can to just But the whole NFL is game planning against us now, man. So I mean, it's like it's inevitable that the rest of the team's trying to catch us, man. And like a lot of teams kind of did it though. They made some strides, that's for sure. But I don't think we fell off. I don't think we're getting past. I still think we have the best quarterback, the most electrifying offense. Like I said, I really enjoy listing off that receiving core. I think it's fantastic. Let's get on to another player that we signed, Ronald Jones from Tampa Bay. I feel like with that, I mean, he's not the greatest, but like an improvement at running back. We were just kind of getting on the CEH train there. We all know how we all feel about CEH. And I feel like any improvement in that position just is going to help our offense that much more. How do you feel about it, Scott? I know you don't think he's the greatest running back, but
I don't like Ronald. I don't like Ronald. I don't like Ronald Jones.
Fair.
To me, he's a backup running back. He's only averaged over basically 4 yards a carry once in his career, and he's got over a third as many fumbles as he does touchdowns. He's got 19 touchdowns to 7 fumbles. Tampa Bay didn't think he was good enough, so they went out and traded a bunch of capital to get Leonard Fournette in there ahead of him. He might be faster. He might be marginally better than CEH, but I don't think he's a difference maker. I don't think he makes that running. I think I'd rather have Jerick McKinnon healthy than Ronald Jones, to be honest with you. Another lackluster signing. That's right. How I look at it. Not to say that he can't come in here and work real hard and get better at some things and work on ball security, but that's going to me, you're like hoping on something getting better. I don't. And then again, who else is out there at running back? I don't know. Maybe I would like to see him draft a running back. The guy, and his name escapes me now, the guy at Toledo, which is kind of funny because that's where we got Kareem Hunt from. You look at a lot of his numbers and his running style, that dude looks a lot like Kareem Hunt. Maybe he's there in the 3rd or 4th round. You could scoop him up with one of those 4th-round picks. But, yeah, Rojo to me is just a very meh. It's a blah signing.
How you feeling about the new running back, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Scott said, there's not a lot of sizzle, right, to it. I mean, if he can put in some solid production for us, then that's really what we need, right? We don't need like the best running back in the NFL. We need somebody that can make people afraid enough of the run that they have to play for it. If he can do that, then we're good. He hasn't been super impressive, but I mean, I think we're past the impressive, free agent signing period, at least for the next few years here. And other than the Rams, who won the Super Bowl this year, like who else has done that where they've had a bunch of these huge signings and like really had any success anyway, right? So I think that we get like all hyped and we see, there's like that FOMO with like you see these teams doing these big signings and then like in a couple of years, like you look back at those contracts, you're like, man, that really wasn't that good of a signing. They overpaid that guy, like.
Right.
And I think we're, so we it's like every offseason we do it, we get whoa up on the roller coaster, and then like we come back down to earth. But
I mean, Chiefs Kingdom is definitely on the top of the roller coaster right now because there's people out there saying that this guy looked like Jamal Charles and the way he had this vision when he hit this one play, and I was like, bro, you people are not comparing Ronald Jones to Jamal Charles, right? But fans do that, myself included. I think I picked Josh Gordon to have like 800 yards and 6 touchdowns last year.
We were pretty optimistic on him joining.
Right. And that's another thing, Nick, I'm glad you bring up. I know we're 40 minutes in and we're still going back to the Tyreek Hill thing, but if you were going to trade him and clear up all that cap space, that would have been a lot more valuable, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago when these top tier guys were still out there. Like, it feels like they also missed the boat there. Like, they waited too long to do the trade. Everybody's talking about all this cap space we got now. What for who? All the big name guys that you needed cap space for are gone already. That's another drawback.
Well, we got to sign Orlando Brown still, right?
Bad.
Yeah, he hasn't signed his franchise tag.
Who?
Orlando Brown.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're gonna try to work something out with him, and maybe they use some of that cap space. But I'd rather have Tyreek Hill than Orlando Brown. So yeah, I didn't like the return. I didn't like the timing. I didn't like they rushed it. Man, there's just nothing I like about it. But
Mr. Positive.
yeah, hey,
real
look,
quick,
I'm
going
just
back
not going to
to
sit here and
Everything
fanboy.
sucks and I'm sad.
I mean, I'm not
Going
going to
back
sit
to
here and
Rojo real
fanboy
quick,
over
though.
every move the team makes. Dude, they make mistakes. And it's okay to admit that they make mistakes. Like, that doesn't make you a bad fan or overly negative. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. I'm still probably going to pick them to win the division, but it's going to be a lot tougher and it's going to be a lot closer than it would have been without Tyreek Hill. Some of the other moves we were talking about, Bo, you kind of
real quick on Rojo, real quick. You were just saying like you wanted somebody just marginally better than CEH, and I would I'm of the opinion that most of the running backs on our team are better than CEH out of McKinnon, Gore, and Williams. And if Rojo's that much better, like all those guys, I'd prefer over CEH. So like I said, just marginally better in that position does help our offense out. That's kind of just beating a dead horse on my position.
No, I got you.
But
no, I mean that's a good point. I mean, anything's an improvement over the human snail, as far as I'm concerned. I didn't come up with that nickname either, so don't crucify me on Twitter for that. But an interesting, kind of sad,
we'll miss you, Dan.
Non-signing. Dan Sorensen is going to the Saints. I love Dirty Dan, man, and that sucks.
Just in time for you to get your drawing.
Bro, I mean, they got rid of two of my guys and replaced them with guys that are just like blah to me. So it's been a rough week for me. I don't think like the sky's falling. The wheels have completely fallen off. If I'm giving off that vibe, that's not the case. I still like the team. I still think they're going to be one of the teams to beat. I just don't necessarily think they're going to be the team to beat. Dan Sorensen made a hell of a lot of plays. And I'll say this. I put out a tweet earlier, not trying to say that he's a better safety than Tyrann Mathieu because I don't think that he was. But I feel like Dan Sorensen's made more big plays for this team than a lot of these fan favorites on defense have made.
We can go back to our last episode and hear us talk about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the dude made big plays. He was clutch. He came up when it matters. I mean, love Chris Jones, but he let fucking Joe Burrow get away on third down with the game on the line.
Yeah.
You seen Dirty Dan out there forcing fumbles and sniffing out fake punts with the game on the line. So Dirty Dan got a raw deal from the fans. He got a raw deal from the coaching staff, putting him in positions to fail. When he was put in the proper position and you really needed someone to make a big play the last 3 or 4 seasons on defense, Dirty Dan was the man.
Yeah.
Right? Wrong?
No, yeah, 100% right. Yeah, I mean, and not only that, he made clutch plays like solo open field tackles to end games. Like, yeah, but as we kind of discussed last episode, it's like one of those positions. Like, he could be past his prime, he could still be really good. I mean, that's always the case. But I'm not too sad to see him go. I mean, I'm ready to get some fresh legs and some fresh minds back in our defense. I feel like that's our weakest link right now, and any positive rebuilding we can do on the defensive side is better.
I really like the Justin Reed signing at safety.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the Devin Bush signing. Those are some good guys, getting younger, faster, more physical. Tyrann Mathieu, unsigned. People were like freaking out on Twitter that Daniel Sorensen, the Dirty Dan, got a deal before Tyrann Mathieu. What do you, real quick before we talk about Tyrann, Doug's got a comment here. So our D-line couldn't sack Burrow. What needs to happen there? I don't know what needs to happen there. They need Jaron Reed was the guy they brought in last year on a 1-year deal, and I think they were disappointed with him. Chris Jones had some games in the regular season where he dominated and took over. Melvin Ingram is still out there. Maybe they can bring him back, but he's closer to the end than the beginning. He still had some left in the tank. Maybe you can bring him back as a guy that helps out. I don't know that another year, on the tires with him, those mileage. I don't know if he's an every down player or if he's I mean, you think he'd fall off even a little bit with more age from last season. So it's going to be tough. Defensive line definitely needs to rush the passer. Frank Clark, I know people are upset with the Frank Clark signing, but they basically kept him for what it was going to cost the cap to get rid of him. So why not keep him rather than pay that money to have nobody?
Right.
So that's a good question. Defensive line, I don't know. You guys, real quick, have anything? They really haven't made very many moves or done a whole lot there other than
Yeah, I mean, I think we
go.
just need to probably get a couple of draft picks, right? I mean, we need to look to the draft for these guys that can go in there and perform. I don't pay that much attention to who's going to be available and where they're going to fall, but I mean, I think that we're entering the phase of the Patrick Mahomes era where like we've got to be really good with draft picks and we've got to hit more often than not.
Right.
And if we can do that, then you saw what happened with Brady and even Peyton Manning, right? I mean, where they kept a good team around him and they were good enough to elevate a good team and win a lot of games. And so that's really what we got to continue to focus on.
Patriots. Go ahead, Bo.
Do you guys think our necessity for the draft is defense or offense?
I
would have said defense,
but
like a week ago.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. Like now it gets harder to get better on defense because now you got to kind of go out and find a wide receiver one. Now you're picking an offensive player in the first round instead of a defensive player.
Right. But we could. I mean, look, we could.
that road again.
If we can get a solid receiver with one of those first round picks, then we can. Then that just means that we've got another first round pick and 2 second round picks that we can focus on defense with, right?
Yeah, but see, to me, I think to go get a difference maker wide receiver, you're gonna have to like trade package those 2 firsts to move up to get somebody.
Yeah, I agree.
So now you're not picking a defensive player in the first round.
Yeah,
so that's another
kind of like
trade, but
right with Andy Reid's schemes and Patrick Mahomes' talent, like, I mean, that elevates that. There, I think there's just so much there that's not accounted for, right? Like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, and the Packers are a great team, but they don't have Andy Reid. I mean. I just think that like you've got that level of quarterback and you have one of the greatest offensive minds of the last, I mean, I don't know, forever, right? One of the greatest offensive minds in the history of the NFL. So, you've seen Andy Reid do it like with multiple different players and multiple different skill sets over the course of his career. So maybe we trade up and maybe we get a guy. But
would both of you guys like to see a receiver first?
I think that's where you win.
Yeah, I think that's what they have to do, right? I mean, that you got to try to get a number.
I don't think the signs are pointing to receiver with getting Juju and MVS and re-signing Blake Bell and everything. Like, I kind of feel like they're gonna go defensive heavy and like maybe get a cornerback or something like off the cuff, dude. Like something that we're not even thinking about right now.
We get number 88 back too, right? I mean, is he still on the roster?
Yeah, I mean he'll be back, but coming off an Achilles injury, that's a brutal injury. I mean that's potentially a career ender for guys. I mean, you saw Eric Berry. I mean, he didn't have a torn Achilles, but he had an Achilles injury and he never played again. So, I don't think you can trust to try and find a really good productive wide receiver, and that's pick 50 in the second round. I mean, you're gonna be talking about getting the 8th or 9th ranked wide receiver in that draft class at 50. I don't know, man. That's
I just think that you see guys that perform in those first 2 rounds. I mean, all the time.
That's the exception. Like, there's also a lot of guys that you pick, like Cornell Powell, that are on your practice squad in the 3rd round all season, like that you never even hear of again after you make the pick. So, Tyrann Mathieu, we got kind of sidetracked. I'm just interested to see what your guys' thoughts are. He still has not signed anywhere, and all the teams, it seemed like he was going to be the guy that had all this interest, and teams were lining up out the door to pick him, and he's still sitting out there waiting for a job.
You know that this reminds me of?
What do you think?
is
What do you think's
Mike
driving that?
Moustakas.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if Bo knows who Mike Moustakas is, but
Yeah,
Chiefs
for sure.
fans will know who he
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean, we had the big core players, and instead of trading those guys, we tried to make one more run with the Royals, and then so we didn't get any picks, and they just all went into free agency. And Mike Moustakas seemed like he was going to get a lot more interest than he did. He ended up signing like a 1-year contract with the Royals just because he didn't get the right offer, right?
Yeah.
Despite he had set I think the Royals home run record. He, had a monster off season or postseason. It's not off season, monster postseasons, but just didn't quite get the interest maybe that he thought he was, and maybe Matthew and his camp are asking too much money, and they're finding out that the market for an aging safety isn't as good as they thought. I mean, that's
Do
what it
you
reminds me of.
do you think it's more teams are worried about his age and his production last year, or it's just he wants too much money? He's still a good player. He just wants too much money.
I think it's
Everything.
both. Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, that's okay. I already talked. I mean, you can go.
I would say it's both, man. Like other than
But
last
like,
year,
give a weight to it, like 80-20, 60-40, 70-30.
I'd say it's more performance based. Like 80% is performance of last year. Other than against the Ravens, where you had 2 interceptions against Lamar Jackson, I can't really remember great plays from him all season. I'm sure there are some I'm probably forgetting, but like he had a real lackluster season last year. And
Yeah, you didn't see a lot of those plays where he like sniped the pass or sniffed out a play and had tackle for loss and did the point to his head. I'm too smart. Like you didn't see a lot of that last year.
I saw him like looking around at his teammates in frustration, like, where are you? And they're like, that's your guy. Like I saw a lot of that going on. And then like he had that shit go on social media, kind of
Yep. That's what I was going to say
trashing
too.
fan base. You know what I mean? Like kind of
I think that
developing
pissed the
that
team
personality that teams kind of shy away from.
Yeah, I think that pissed the team off personally.
Yeah, completely.
That pissed me off.
All of that plus trying to demand, top pay for a lackluster performance, like it just probably didn't add up for all the other teams.
Yeah, the dude came in and was a badass player and helped us win a Super Bowl. And I'm not trying to say I don't think he's a good player. He was a good player, but kind of interesting that he's sitting out there still like waiting for the phone to ring. I don't know.
Does he play for the Chiefs next year?
No, I don't think so.
That's what I was going to ask when you were talking about the Royals guy.
No, I don't think he comes back. They went and got that Reed and the other guy at safety. They got Juan Thornhill that they drafted in the second round a couple of years ago that played more towards the end of last year. I don't see him coming back.
Do you think anybody picks him up then? Do you think he plays next year?
Oh, he'll play somewhere for sure. There's no way he doesn't play. But
pennies on the dollar, though, kind of thing.
He's probably going to have to swallow the pride and maybe take a 1-year deal or definitely not get as much money as he thought he was going to get. So, because all these teams you saw that were out there that were going to pay money for a safety have already signed somebody else. I mean, the Saints were one of them. The Jets were one of these teams.
Yeah,
we got a little bit here
on teams he would want to go to. Now he's going to have to settle for whoever can going to pick him up.
I know Bo's got to run here in a little bit, so there's been some talk about. So we've talked about guys we talked about the trade. We talked about guys that we signed. We talked about guys that we didn't sign and kind of gotten away. Just real quick, what about players that are out there that you would like to see us get? There's been some rumors going around that we might be willing to trade for a Laviska Shenault, who's a receiver, kind of an intriguing guy. I was never that big on him coming out of Colorado to begin with. There's on defense some people talking about Stephon Gilmore still out there, has not signed with anybody, a cornerback. Excuse me. We let Charvarius Ward go, which, man, that was a big hit. I liked that guy. He was kind of a flew under the radar guy that when you look at some of, and of course PFF grades and things like that, which are sometimes you scratch your head at some of the players they have graded highly and poorly on those sites, but he was pretty good. He went to the 49ers. So maybe they're looking at that. There's that James Bradbury from the Giants, who's a pretty good corner that maybe the Giants are looking just to get rid of to acquire a pick or two and get rid of salary because they're in a rebuild with their new coaching staff. Anybody out there you would like to see you think is worth it?
That Stephon Gilmore option really intrigued me, especially with some of the moves we've already made. I'm really focused on our defense. Like I said, I feel like that's been our Achilles heel. It was last year for sure. It's our weak spot. No getting around it. So like any stud we could bring in any position on D, I'm all for it. That Stephon Gilmore, that really intrigued me. I think they had talks, but nothing came of it. And he was going to go meet with the Raiders this week or something, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. The thing about Stephon Gilmore to me is Bill Belichick and the Patriots seem to have a knack for getting rid of guys just at the right time.
Right.
And so is there something to that with him too, or is there something we don't know? I don't know.
Dude's good though.
Yeah, no, he's a badass player, no doubt. That makes me a little leery.
Right.
Of him, just because, like, well, if he's so good, why don't the Patriots want him anymore? But again, they've been on the train of get rid of a guy a couple years, maybe a little bit too early than too late to save the money.
Yeah.
So maybe he's still got a few years left in there. I'd hate to give him big money though at his age and with that.
Did the Rams sign OBJ?
No, I don't think so.
So he's still floating around out there, right?
I think so.
Yeah, the injury though, that's like what, the third one of those in the last 3 years.
Just give him on the cheap, man.
Yeah, get him on the cheap. I might get what you pay for. I don't know. And man, he got hurt like during the Super Bowl, dude.
I felt bad for him. Actually,
I felt bad for him too, but like that's like the last game of the year to get hurt in, which means your return time is absolutely as far down as possible. Like, you see guys get hurt early in the year, and it's like, oh well, he'll be back. At least he got hurt early enough in the year, and maybe he can come back for next season. You might be looking at paying him, and he can't even play for the first 7, 8, 9, 10 games of the season.
What was the extent of his injury? It was his knee, right?
Yeah. I don't know what it was in the knee, but same knee. He had the injury in Cleveland. He's kind of been an injury-prone guy the last 3 or 4 years, but he looked good when he was healthy. After he got away from the Browns and went to the Rams, he looked good. He was having a good Super Bowl, too, until the injury, which, yeah, that sucks for that guy. He's kind of one of these look-at-me diva kind of guys that irritate me a little bit. But he's a good player. And
I kind of felt like that fell off with him last year.
I thought he did the Browns kind of dirty. He's like one of these guys where he loves where he's at until it doesn't go his way for a little, and then all of a sudden he wants out and the team I play for sucks and Mayfield sucks and he goes somewhere else, and he just wasn't at the Rams long enough to really fall out of favor with them.
Well, they won the Super Bowl, so.
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl, so pretty hard to argue with the results. And I never want to see anybody get injured, especially not in the Super Bowl. You play your whole career. I mean, guys talk about dreaming as kids of playing the Super Bowl, and then you get there and you get hurt in the first half. Yeah, that's a brutal injury. So, I don't know. Free agents, to me, that's kind of past the guys I would have liked to have seen. But
our staff and Veach, they've made some moves though that have like really knocked my socks off sometimes, dude. I wasn't expecting Melvin Ingram to come in and be an impact player. Right. I wasn't expecting our rookie line to be able to protect Patrick Mahomes. I thought it was just going to be another scramble season. Nick Bolton, I sang his praises all season. That guy just did phenomenal work for us. I really like what our staff sees in upcoming players. And so, I put a little bit of trust in them, even though I can't see the big picture.
Right. Well, the margin of error got smaller.
He sure did, though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And again, not saying they can't do it or they won't do it, but it got harder. So, and we'll see what they can do. I'm just struggling to think of anybody that's out there in the free agent market right now that really, to me, is like a no-brainer. And that's probably why they're still out there at this point, right? Not signed by somebody. They've all got something that is scaring teams away. But
did Saquon Barkley sign with somebody? That's still
no,
out
he's
there
still under
too, right?
contract. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
He's on his rookie deal still, right? Maybe we could
Yeah, I
trade for
think there were
him.
some people that were talking about maybe trading for him, but trading for a running back that's already got injury problems, no,
Yeah.
thank you. Christian McCaffrey, no, thank you. Some of these guys that teams maybe are looking to get rid of to save some money, but running backs get injured enough as it is, and you're getting some guys that are already got some dinks, and some scraps and some scratches. I don't want to be giving up anything for that. But
yeah, not too many players get injured and come back and do better.
yeah, it doesn't happen very often. And not only that, it's just like at the running back position. I mean, Jamal Charles did, I guess. He had the knee injury and he came back and was a beast afterwards. But
Priest Holmes did. Just our running backs.
I don't want to trade for a guy that's got injury issues. My fingers crossed that it isn't going to continue to be a problem,
Only our guys.
Not that it can't happen. It's like, I mean, you can win the Powerball. It's not a good plan. Not a good
So you're
strategy.
saying there's a chance.
Yeah, I mean, if you go speak to a financial advisor about your retirement, and he says, "Well, let's just start buying a lot of Powerball tickets." Might want to look elsewhere for your planning. So, to me, trading for a running back that's already had a bunch of injuries is kind of a low percentage chance. Low percentage chances hit though sometimes, I guess. But
would you rather have Saquon Barkley injury prone over CEH as your number one?
Yeah, that's
what would you give up? What would you trade to get him? What would you be willing to give up? Second and fourth?
Probably what I'd be willing
to. Just 1 for 1.
Probably, yeah, I'd do that deal. Probably what I'd be willing to draft a running back for in the draft with a 3rd round pick.
One gently used.
Giants. Say you have my 3rd. Like I don't know. I mean, I just think there's guys out there. You've seen the Chiefs go out and get Jamal Charles in later rounds, and you've seen Chiefs get running backs, Jarrett freaking McKinnon off the scrap heap, and Sharkhandrick West and Spencer Ware. There's just dudes that are out there, man.
Yeah.
Right.
That you don't have to give up a lot for. So, not that any of those guys are Saquon Barkley, but cost over return. Saquon's better, but you're going to have to give a hell of a lot more up for him than you did some of these other guys that you can trade for cheap or bring in that just other teams have given up on and see what they do. Be interesting to see Jarrett McKinnon. If he gets a starting role somewhere. If not, man, I would love to see that guy back.
Me too. I think that guy trucks people. Like that guy puts in the effort.
And he's fast.
Play. And he's fast. He got so much criticism from all those San Francisco fans, but man, he really turned it on last year. Yeah.
Yeah. He was injured at the 49ers, and that was kind of the end of his career.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The John V, our buddy John V, and some of the other guys, they were not Jarrett McKinnon fans. And then when he was balling out in the playoffs at the end of the year for us, they were like, "You got to be kidding me, man." So, I don't know, Bo. I know you got to get out of here.
I got to wrap this up.
But it's going to be an interesting season. It got a lot more intriguing. Chiefs made some work. Got some work to do now. Walking a little bit tighter of a rope.
You know what I am excited for, though? I will put this out there. I'm excited for teams not playing cover 2 against us every single play and like maybe a normal offense appearing.
I mean, they might still do it, It works.
They might still do it, but like, dang, like that was a weird season, man.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird season, but we'll the draft is what, April something? April.
Yeah, I think so. April
Mid
7?
Late April, somewhere there. We'll probably do unless there's like a stunning development, like the Chiefs decide to trade away Travis Kelce or something. We'll probably come back with a draft episode of Chiefs Kingdom Live. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for commenting. Click the like, click the subscribe. We're working on off-season content. it's kind of slow, and then things happen. So just keep an eye out for us. We put out, on the social media at Chiefs Kingdom Live on the Twitter and the Facebook and the Insta. A little bit of a notice when we think we're gonna be able to put together a show. When breaking news happens. When news breaks, we fix it. That's the old TV saying, right? So, but appreciate everybody. Like I said, joined in, watching. It's good talking with you guys, and we'll see what happens, and maybe we'll talk closer to the draft.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Let's go Chiefs.
All right, fellas.
Go
Let's go
Chiefs!